Now, Britain has announced plans to unilaterally rewrite part of the treaty it signed as part of its Brexit divorce deal with the European Union. The Northern Ireland Protocol deals with the province's unique role as the only part of the UK with a direct EU border with the Republic of Ireland. The protocol keeps Northern Ireland in the EU's single market by effectively placing a customs border in the Irish Sea between Northern Ireland and mainland Britain. Northern Ireland's pro-British Democratic Unionist Party says the protocol undermines the province's status within the UK. Now, British Foreign Minister Liz Truss today told Parliament she'll bring forward legislation to change some of the protocol's provisions.
I am announcing our intention to introduce legislation in the coming weeks to make changes in the protocol. Our preference remains a negotiated solution with the EU. And in parallel with the legislation being introduced, we remain open to further talks if we can achieve the same outcome through negotiated settlement. I've invited Vice President Šefčovič to a meeting of the Withdrawal Agreement Joint Committee in London to discuss this as soon as possible.
Now, of course, the EU has warned London against unilateral action, and the bloc's negotiator, Maros Šefčovič, said Brussels would respond with all measures at its disposal. Now, this raises the spectre of an all-out trade war between the UK and the EU, a prospect that has been dismissed by the British Prime Minister, Boris Johnson.
I don't think that is likely, but what we have to fix is the problems with the Northern Ireland political situation, where you can't get the executive up and running right now. In the past, we've done all sorts of things to fix that. We need to address the problems with the protocol. What that actually involves is getting rid of some relatively minor barriers to trade, and I think there are good, commonsensical, pragmatic solutions. We need to work with our EU friends to achieve it.
So maybe this is all shouting and a deal will be done in the end. Let's talk to Anton Spisak, who's a senior fellow at the Tony Blair Institute, where he specialises in UK-EU relations. He joins us from London. Welcome to DW. Explain to us why it would matter if the UK chose to walk away from this deal unilaterally.
Thank you for having me. I think it's really important to take a step back here and go back to the autumn of 2019, when we had an agreement between the UK and the EU after a long period of negotiation. You will remember that, a very tortuous process. And the UK and the EU managed to find a deal which included so-called Northern Ireland Protocol, which avoided any kind of border or checks between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, but instead created some restrictions in terms of movement of goods between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Now, this deal was really important because, as we know, the history of Northern Ireland is one of violence, and it is really essential to preserve the Good Friday Agreement, and the protocol does exactly that.
But if it impinges on people's everyday lives and Britain chooses to walk away from it, what changes? Who gets damaged?
I mean, I think there is some evidence. I think it is right to say that, the protocol created some challenges for the people and businesses in Northern Ireland and in Great Britain as well. So, there have been some practical challenges where businesses were not able to, have not been able to send goods freely from Great Britain to Northern Ireland. They are facing new customs paperwork, new restrictions. But we also have to realize that, there is an acute political dimension to this problem. And that is that one political community in Northern Ireland, that is the Unionists, are refusing to agree to the protocol as an idea. For them, it really takes Northern Ireland away from the United Kingdom, and it raises a question about the status of the Union as a whole. So there are those two dimensions. There is the practical dimension and the political dimensions, which have been at the core of this dispute. I would just add to that by saying that, all of these problems were known at the time when the protocol was signed. So none of this is very new. For some of us who were involved in that negotiation, it was very clear from the beginning that this deal would have some enormous consequences, not only for trade, but also for those broader questions around politics in Northern Ireland.
Right, so do you see this escalating then? Do you see this actually going to the level of a trade dispute or a trade war between the UK and the EU?
I probably have a very unsatisfactory answer, and that is just we don't know yet, but we will find out, I think, very soon. And we've just heard an announcement today from Liz Truss, who's the UK's Foreign Secretary, saying that they're planning to introduce legislation before the summer recess. We will see if they do that, or if they're just trying to use this threat of legislation as a negotiating tactic to get the EU to offer some concessions to the UK and to open up this discussion whether the protocol can be renegotiated or not.
Because the EU has a reputation of leaving things till the very, very last moment and then even beyond that. And so the thinking is that, well, if the EU chooses to call the UK's bluff, then it can afford to do that because it's so much bigger. But we're in the situation that this is likely to have a significant impact on Ireland, an EU member, which presumably will not be content to just sit back and see how this plays out.
I think that's absolutely right, and we have to look at the bigger picture here. You know, what the UK is asking to do in this legislation, which we still haven't seen, but that's the idea, is that they would override bits of that international treaty in domestic law. Now, if you are the EU and you're sitting in Brussels or any other European capitals, and you are facing the threat of Russia, and not just Russia, but also other countries in the international community, which don't really believe in the rules-based international system, then the last thing you want is to set a precedent that another country close to the EU, just doorstep, is willing to take this measure. So I think it is extremely unlikely that the EU will offer any concessions to the UK in response to this. If anything, I think the EU's position will be more entrenched, and I think this has been a big miscalculation by the UK government.
All right, we'll see how it plays out. Thank you for sharing your insights with us, Anton Spisak, Senior Fellow at the Tony Blair Institute in London.